Hello and welcome everybody to the UT4 cast. You see what we've done there? We've actually mind blown you a little bit. Well, actually, it was D-Pain and the community Ultra as well helped on the names. So don't blame me if it's terrible. I couldn't think of anything, and this is a whole community process anyway, and this is why we're doing this community tour right now. And I'm joined by some lovely guests, Cpt Migraine, Timeh, and Hypno. Why don't you go and introduce yourselves?
Hey, I'm Timeh. I do a little programming on UT.
I'm Cpt Migraine, aka Neil. I am a community mapper. I'm currently working on a map called Deep Ruins. It's a competitive duel map. I'm also, I would like to say I'm a competitive player, but I haven't really played competitively in a while. Started off playing UT 2004 and moved up to UT3 in terms of like competition. And now here we are with UT4.
Hey there, my name is Gaspar, as known as Hypno. I've been a competitive player since 2004, actually the same time as Zakavos. We actually met in San Francisco. Since then, I've been traveling around the world to compete in events. Unfortunately, UT kind of died in terms of competitive events. I've been to ESWC. I won a world, you can say world tournament in UT3, and I'm competing in UT4 at the moment as well.
Yeah, current European world champion. Well, European champion, I'd say, not world champion as of yet. As I don't think you've really tested the Americans as of yet.
Yeah, true. The prize money was quite decent though.
Oh yeah,
for a European tournament.
Very decent. And first off, guys, we're going to be talking about the new patch and what's changed, because obviously there's been a lot that's going on as of recent months. You know, obviously with the new engine build, it destroyed the game. So Epic have been hard at work for the last 2 months trying to rebuild the game. And when doing so, they upped the actual scale of the models by 15%, and it's pretty much changed the whole game and the whole tone of it from the sounds of it, but we haven't got our hands on it just yet. And I was wondering what your thoughts on this movement scale is about. What do you think, Captain?
I think it's gonna be interesting. I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is that sometimes the players can appear visually just a little bit small. So from a visual standpoint, it probably makes sense to increase the player size. But from a gameplay standpoint, there are some real concerns there because maps generally started off kind of small during the early days of UT4, and then as you know the speed increases started coming along, maps started feeling even tighter and tighter and tighter. And so now with like the player scale increase, I'm worried that maps are going to start feeling even smaller. And so like some of the things, like one thing I had to do personally with Leah was I had to do like a 3 or 4% scale increase on that map just to kind of bring it back up to normal proportions. And so I'm almost curious, like, will I have to do that again?
Yeah.
Will I have to do that with like Deep Ruins, for instance? It's a pretty big concern, I would say.
Yeah, and Hypno, how do you think the weapon balance will change with this movement scale, especially with all the talk of flak and rockets being very OP at the moment? And, you know, obviously if people are bigger, they're going to be easier to hit, and the smaller the maps are as well, in terms of the bigger scale, it could provide some problems.
Yeah, honestly, from the change logs, the thing that spotted my eye the most was the player size being changed. I think 15% should be like a really big value, and we will notice it a lot. I really don't know. People were whining that the damage of the sniper rifle were decreased, but now probably it's even easier to hit, so probably it's quite balanced. I'm really curious. I can't really tell if it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. Honestly, I felt that the player scale before always felt a bit, yeah, probably small. So it might be a good thing, but we really need to play in order to actually criticize properly.
Yeah, I mean, that's always an important notice. Like, you need enough time before, you know, when a big change like that happens, you need to adjust to it. And it's not something that takes like a week. It can take months sometimes to get used to a new meta. Like week one, the Stinger could be the most OP gun ever, but by the time somebody's used to it, something else takes over the reins.
I think the main problem in the forums are people that just overreact over changes. We're just trying for like 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. At least for myself, I always try to criticize with at least having like 2 weeks of playing, and then I think I can criticize it properly. And sometimes it's not even enough. So people should be aware that some stuff needs to be tested for a great period of time, like even 1 month, you know. So yeah.
I think what the problem was with the sniper change and what people got in uproar about is that nobody asked for it. Everybody, you know, if you ask everybody in the previous build, like, how was the sniper rifle balance? Everybody would go, it's good, we like it, no change please. And then suddenly this new scale comes out and there's a change, and at the time where I think one of the development streams, it was like, yeah, we're not going to do any weapon changes, but then you've changed that weapon at that time and not adjusted the weapons that we've been using for months and months for like rockets and flak, which a lot of people, I mean, the consensus is in the community that it needs to be addressed now. And we've had 2-3 months of playing with those kind of weapons at that kind of, that power, that scale, and people want change on it. And just...
So does that mean that the sniper headshot damage also got decreased as a result?
I don't think so. I think that's still 125.
Hold on, go back to the character scaling. What? I'm trying to get Perforce and actually check the diff to see what changed. But is it the capsule that got bigger, or is it just the model itself? Right? Because like the hitbox could stay the same, but it could be just the visibility of the player that changed. Right? So I'm not sure. I'm just gonna see if I can check.
Yeah, that's pretty. It's very different, because if it's only about visibility, if you're aiming at something that in fact it's not gonna hit, you know, I don't know. I don't think player visibility was such a big concern, but I think that's also because we are playing shell maps. I don't know, like on Leah and stuff like that, we had problems in visibility. So it really depends on the map as well.
It's an interesting topic, really, and Cpt Migraine would have a lot of thoughts on that, because obviously your map's been tweaked, being desaturated recently by Jim.
Yeah, I mean, there was a huge thread that got started about a month and a half or 2 months ago. They were talking about bright skins and you know, rim shader glow and stuff like that. And so the number one map of interest was Leah, because I mean it's a very blue map by nature, and simply just biases in favor of the blue player. Yeah. And so my main concern is, how do you neutralize the color scheme so that it doesn't bias too heavily in favor of one player? And so my first thought was, well, let's try a simple desaturation fix on it. It may take away from the overall prettiness of the map, but if it satisfies like that gameplay point, then I mean, I think that's a good thing.
I mean, I spoke to you beforehand, before we actually started this call, and I was on about like a global desaturation as a competitive toggle mode. Like, so people can have the shiny, you know, good looking graphics, but like instead of maybe bright skins desaturating everything apart from player models, so they pop out a little bit more. And if you're a caster, you're not going to have that on anyway. You're gonna turn on the pretty graphics and make it look good and have the X-ray vision, so everything's nice and clear. But for a competitive player, I think they'd really like that feature and they would use it a lot. And it doesn't take away too much of the prettiness of the game as well.
Right, and I mean, like for spectator viewing, it wouldn't necessarily have to be enabled by default, because like if let's say that you are shoutcasting a stream on Twitch TV, you wouldn't necessarily need that feature enabled by default. So it would mostly just be in the hands of the players who are actually trying to play the match, and they don't want too many distractions, and they just want to be able to see players easily. So I think that's a good idea.
It must be client side for sure. Like if you have X-ray and you are spectating and shoutcasting it, it's really enough for the viewers, to be honest. But on Leah, I really had issues. It was even back then before. I think I played against you, Zach. There.
Yeah.
We even coin tossed
the color. Yeah, I lost
because it it was so like the advantage was so much for the player that was on blue that it was kind of ridiculous. Yeah, but with the client desaturation, I think that's the way to go. It's a really smart idea, actually.
Yeah.
Timmy, did you find out about the capsule? Did anything come up?
No, I'm noobing out here.
Right, so
I've never used the blueprint diff. I don't know if it's in the. Actually, I'll check the code. Yeah, you guys continue.
So I mean, back to like the player scale increase. Does that mean that your eye height is going to be raised up a bit when you're from your first person view?
I actually don't know, and that would be really interesting to find out. I would assume so, yes, because it kind of just makes sense, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
Did people have? I didn't have a problem with the current eye height, but did you, Hypno? Did you, Timmy?
There were times when I feel like, let's say that I'm like sliding across the floor. There are times when I feel like my chin is like scraping across the floor because the camera just goes so far down. And then even when you're going, like, let's say you're going up a slope, like a ramp or a staircase, your camera will actually like go into the staircase or the ramp. It's kind of visually jarring at first. But I mean, I'm not really sure if the player scale is going to resolve that like minor discrepancy. But I mean, I think it's kind of interesting to think about. Like my first thought when you scale up the player size is that you kind of have to scale everything else up. You have to scale the eye level height. You have to scale the capsule size. I feel like everything has to be scaled up. But I mean, I don't really know. So we'd have to get a clear answer from that from the devs.
Yeah.
Well, like the eye height isn't. I doubt it's the eye height of the actual player, right? Like it could be well in the chest for all I know. Like I don't see those two things need to be in lockstep. You know what I mean? Like you can change the size of the capsule and the model, and keep the eye height the same, just so it has the same feel that it's always had.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's go back onto sort of weapon balance talk. So, obviously, oh, I just changed the wrong scene, but still. So, obviously, rockets and flak are a big issue in terms of their splash damage, how quick it is to get the kills of these weapons. But is it a contributing factor that the maps in this UT seem generally a lot smaller, especially in duel? That the movement system is very it's faster than the previous games. There's a lot of difference being able to close a gap in this game than the previous games. So I feel like if you get into a mid-range fight, you tend to stay in a mid-range fight in the previous games, where in this you can really definitely close in the gap and make things a little bit more difficult. And that's why I feel those particular weapons just are too favorable right now. And can anyone hear me? I think everybody's died. Lost audio for some reason. Okay. Let's see what's going on here. Nothing's changed. I think I'm going to have to redo the Skype call. I think somebody's dropped out. Odd. Okay. So guys, I'll be right back. Some technical issues with Skype, which is always fun. But yeah. Momentarily. Yo, so we are back, though my face is gone. I don't know where it's gone on the stream, but it'll be coming back very shortly as I turn on my webcam. So we had to lose the webcam, we had to lose Skype because it's bad, and it's bad for you, so don't use Skype. Lesson learned. So, if I could have a quick mic test from you lads, see if it sounds good.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Testing. Hello.
I'm going to turn up Hypno because he sounds really quiet. And I totally forgotten what I was talking about, but I think it was about weapon balance. And let's talk about...
Something like that.
I think it was we were going back onto the rockets and flak. So, basically...
I also forgot. Anyway, Aris Kahara said that the i8 has been increased as well, so...
Oh, the eye height has been increased.
Has been increased? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, 15% eye height increase probably isn't too much to be worried about. 15% is not it's not a huge number.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember back then when it was changed, I really noticed, and it was really hard to adapt. I don't know when it was, maybe some months ago. Then I got used, and for me, it was fine now. But yeah, we'll see how it feels now.
Nice.
So I mean, just looking at the changelog, I mean, some of the most obvious things would be slightly increased rocket splash radius, and then slightly reduced rocket projectile overlap radius. I'm not even really sure what that means.
See,
Yeah.
I think the rocket projectile is the size of the projectile, perhaps. So it's much harder, maybe, or hopefully much harder to hit a direct rocket. But
yeah.
the splash damage is probably increased, which technically I don't mind so much, because it depends on how the damage is, it's shelled out. Like, it depends how far away you are from it. If it's like quite far away and it does like 5 damage, then it's not going to bother me so much. But if it does 25 or 35, then it could be an issue.
Yeah, well, I think that direct rockets were kind of too easy to hit in this build that we are playing right now, especially against, not against, but by Dylan. Dylan just hit me all the primary rockets he could. But still, it for some reason, I think it must be a bit harder. It must be rewarding. Like, mid-airs aren't as hard as they were before, so it needs a bit more skill. So yeah, maybe it's a good change. I don't know. We need to see.
What I'd like to see implemented, and I think a lot of players might be behind me on this one, is rockets doing 95 damage for a direct hit. Now, it's direct 95 damage, but if they're in the air at a certain distance, which will be hard to, I guess, code in or change or put that value in, that it's 100 damage. So you can still get those awesome off the air spawn air rockets and stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's kind of interesting. Like the idea that if somebody's in midair, they take full damage, and if they're not in midair, they take 95 damage. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, because what that means is if you spawn and a rocket hits you, you're not going to die. You're basically just going to live on. You're going to limp on, rather, with 5 HP. But I mean, I think that's better than just outright dying.
yeah.
I think a lot of people found that the rocket's main problem relies not only in its damage and its splash, but also the speed of the rocket. Is it any different? Should it be slowed down?
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel the rocket was more or less okay, even though I'm a bit biased because I really like the rockets. but then again, yeah, I don't think it was on point. But I think this change that we just talked about might become better. But yeah, mainly people are just saying that rockets and flak are too easy to. What I feel with flak is that it's not precise. I don't know. With UT2K4 flak, felt really precise. I wouldn't even talk about UT1. UT2K4 shells were on point. The primary was also on point. Right now, the flag for me feels a bit random. I'm not sure if it's because of the enhanced netcode as well, because I don't know, the weapons kind of do weird stuff with the netcode sometimes. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I can't really point what's wrong with the flag, and I think no one really can. That's why we haven't really tuned the flag yet.
I mean, according to the changelog, it says that they reduced the flak center shard max bonus but increased its effective range. So basically, that means it's going to do less damage, but the shards are going to travel further. Is that what it means?
Yeah, I'm also not sure.
I mean, I'm not sure if that's going to fix the flak.
I mean, there's weapon issues, but a lot of people will rage about these weapon issues. There is these massive issues with weapons, right? But it's also very little in the scale of things. Like, we should be, weapon scales can be turned down at any particular point in time, and it's very easy to do from what I understand. It's just changing certain numbers, certain digits, etc. And it can be very easy to get up in arms about that idea. But, you know, at the end of the day, we should be discovering more important things of how to fix certain big bugs that are actually really game breaking, like the double shot combo stuff and all those kind of little issues. Because in the end of the day, the weapon balance will continue to change from build to build. It's not going to be like UT3. It's not going to be like UT2K4 or UT99 where, you know, it got to this point that there was only one balance now and there are no more balance changes unless the community did something about it. And in 2K4 and UT3, I don't think there was anything that was done about it. And UT99, I think it had multiple different balance changes in terms of some competitive mods, but even then, communities didn't all gather behind them as well. So that's another issue entirely.
Has anybody had a chance to check out the whale's weapons? I don't know if that's what he called it, but
yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on that?
You know, the problem is I try it, I play by myself with bots, and it doesn't give me good feedback.
That's the problem. That's the main problem.
This is why, you know, I've realized this, and, you know, I'm trying to help develop something. I've engaged with the community to actually start developing cups and competitive events which make people practice with these mods and, you know, with these game types or whatever it may be in the future. We're going to call it the Testers Cup. So, like, because what happens is no competitive player, and the only people that really do play right now are competitive players that really want to get back into the game in some way, shape or form. But they want to keep with the competitive meta. They don't want to have to learn different things. They don't want to do that because they want to be the best at that peak game, right? So why are they learning something when it could be detrimental?
That's not going to be used. Yeah,
exactly. And so if I start, you know, this is why a group of us, Hendrik, Max, Carnage, VRU, a group of other people as well, that, you know, do a series of cups, explore game modes, explore people's mutators, and make them use these mods in a month. You know, you've got a month to practice before the cup, and then we want to hear your feedback. We want to know what's good, what's bad, and what we can do differently, and then we can aim towards where these game modes are going to go. Is it going to be CTF? Is it going to be Showdown? Is it going to be TDM? What is that competitive game mode going to be, and what are the rule sets that we're going to see, and are we going to keep adjusting it? Because I think it's nice to keep it fresh. I don't like things staying the same. Like I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it invites new players in. After a current meta is set, I think people start to drift off. But then they come back when they hear about a new patch. Like when this new patch will come out, I'm sure Hypno, you'll start playing again, right?
Yeah, of course. I'm really curious. Actually, I've played the European Cup like 1 month and something ago, and I'm kind of inactive right now. I wasn't really motivated to play because I don't know, nothing is exciting was actually happening. With that cup, there was a new map, the protracted map, that at first it was kind of weird to actually accept it because I never played it before and I didn't know anyone that played it before. So I actually gave it a chance, and it was one of the few maps that I played 1, 2 or 3 times, and I said, okay, this is a good map. This is very rare to happen, actually. And even though with 3 times being played, it's not enough time to judge a map. That's what I try to tell people. There are many map makers that come to me and say, please play my map and try it. The problem is, if I just walk around your map, I can't really judge it. I can't really say if it's good or not. I need to play it for at least 2 weeks, I would say. Maybe 1 week. Hardcore playing, and then I have enough information to criticize. But it's also a problem because if you have many different weapons, we will always stay in this tuning experiment, you know, and people are just like, I prefer this, I prefer that. It's so hard, you know, and sometimes it's so frustrating because you can't really please everyone. Some people, especially UT99 and 2K4 players. That's the main issue, always,
Were you going to chime in with something there, Timmy, or because I just saw your mic flash up? Guess not. Okay.
I could offer something. Basically, I think that what's really going to drive interest would be more completed maps. And I know it's really hard to complete maps. It takes a very long time, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of iteration. And you got to get a lot of feedback from the community on things. And so basically, we only have like a handful of maps. I could probably count them on one hand. We've got Titan Pass, we've got Outpost 23, we've got Leah, soon to be Backspace, and Pistola. And so I feel like if we start to really get more maps, more actual completed maps out, that's really going to drive more interest in the game. And I think I think a lot of that starts with the community. And right now, I think we need to kind of hone in on what types of maps are important. For instance, I've been working on primarily dual maps. So I worked on Leah. I'm currently working on Deep. That's just those are just dual maps.
Yeah.
And then you have other people in the community. Erase is a popular dual map. Can't remember any others off the top of my head right now. But what I think is really kind of lacking right now would be some actual like good TDM maps. And I know right now like Team Showdown is kind of like the hot topic, and so I believe that there's a universe in which Team Showdown and Team Deathmatch could coexist. But I mean that's just my opinion. I think it would be really cool if we could get some really good TDM maps out there, because right now there's really only a handful of decent Team Deathmatch maps out there.
Yeah. Well, I think Hypno will agree with you on that one for sure, because he loves his TDM.
I love TDM, but unfortunately it's not fun to spectate, and I admit it. It's a problem. Maybe Team Showdown might be a good game type for esports. I still think I haven't played in enough, so I can't talk properly about it. But I still think that Duel is a lot more interesting to watch. But then we always have this problem that, in my opinion, I think Duel will never be big for one reason: the player base will never be big. People aren't willing to play Duel because it's too punishing. We need team game types like the main games out there, like Counter-Strike and stuff like that. I have a lot more fun playing team game types myself. Even though I mainly train Duel because it might be the most competitive game type ever in UT. If that's going to change, it might be. I think if UT wants to be successful, like extremely successful, it needs to be a team-based game type. Which game type will that be? I don't know. I don't think CTF is good enough for that. I don't think TDM is good as well. Maybe Team Showdown with some tweaks, maybe something else. I think that's the main issue, the main problem of UT going big right now is having like a main game type that is going to the spotlight in esports. Because if you split the community like it always have been, we can't really have like major tournaments. People need to follow just one game type.
It's about bringing the community together and being involved together in maybe a single game type. I think that's ideally where we want to be headed, but it's a difficult problem because obviously we have separations. We have the TDM guys, we have the last standing guys now, Team Showdown, we've got the CTF guys, and they all want their game to be the successor of this Unreal tournament. They want that game. They feel as if the previous games didn't give them enough of a chance, that they didn't have the time in the spotlight, because Duel was obviously the main go-to when it came to televised competitive gaming. But if you look at all the tournaments beforehand, the bigger tournaments were always CTF, they were always TDM, they were always like the mixed cups where you do the 1v1, 2v2, 4v4 things. And they brought in the numbers.
Back then, when UT was extremely competitive, like in CPL and stuff like that, it was only about one-on-one and TDM. Like the main teams, SKF, Fnatic, Mouse Sports, stuff like that, people only played TDM. But back then, the things were different. We didn't have as good as internet connection as now, and the games weren't even like streamed most of the times. I mean, people were just checking rap bots or on IRC and stuff like that. So TDM was probably the most competitive team game type in UT. Nowadays, maybe it doesn't fit the esports style, and I'm willing to admit it, even though it's my favorite game type. So I think that people need to be humble enough to accept a new game type. Either people from CTF, ICTF, for example. ICTF might have the biggest team, the biggest community in terms of team game type. But honestly, I don't think it's interesting to watch. I need to be honest. I don't think it's interesting.
No, you're right. Like team-based game modes have progressed in such a great way over the past, decade or whatever. Like, like CTF has been the same CTF, and that's fun for a lot of people.
So
But
what do you guys? Oh, I'm sorry.
no, actually, scrap what I was talking about. This just in, I think it was just the mesh size, not the capsule, that was changed 15%. So I don't think hitboxes have changed, but it's just your visibility, like of the other person's mesh.
Okay.
That's going to be interesting to play test.
Does that mean that it'll feel like you're missing sometimes when you hit people?
It depends. I know there was some swimming with the animations before we did some tests. Like it depends. Like looking at this character idled, doesn't look too bad. Well, you guys continue talking. I'll send you a screenshot.
Okay.
I was gonna say that one of the more popular game types that I would say brought together sort of the casuals and the competitive. In UT 2004, I believe it was called TAM, and it was also TAM in UT3, and I believe now it's like Last Man Standing. Do you think that there are any elements from Last Man Standing that maybe Team Showdown could borrow or integrate that may drive interest?
Well, it's funny because I approached Vlad a long time ago, like about 2 different game modes like that should be experimented with, and one of them was Last Man Standing, like mixing up and changing it out and making it basically, though I don't like the idea myself really that much, having a class system, you'd have like 2 weapons per person, so one person with sniper rifle and the enforcer, one person with link gun and minigun, one guy with rocket and flak or whatever. That was an example. Now the way I reasoned it that way is because you can then have like the best sniper player on your team, you can have the best rocket player on your team, you can find people switching classes to whatever they prefer and like to play, and not have it overwhelmed by one particular weapon type that TAM is famous for. It's basically right now it's Instagib 2.0 until you're at close range, and then it's just all rockets or flak, and it gets very ugly very quickly. And
right, people tend to favor their hit scan weapons in the beginning, and then they move on to basically the weapons that they didn't use in the beginning. So that would be like bar rifle and stinger and rocket launcher. And
Team Showdown is kind of like a natural sort of progression of what TAM is, right? It's kind of like a combination. It's like the birth child of TDM and TAM, really. Essentially, it's just that you pick a spawn and then you have that weapon that you can use, or you don't have to go for that weapon. It gets very interesting the higher level and the more you play that game. The meta changes per spawn. You may be picking the same spawn over and over and over again, but actually you can do many different things off of the one spawn, which makes it very interesting. And a lot of players don't play it long enough to actually do that, or find out that kind of meta. Like Temple is really good for it. I mean, people just think, oh, there's a power up, the U damage up is up, so just rush it and grab it straight away. And it's just, if you do that, you get wrecked sometimes if a team is prepared for it. And then you kind of learn, oh, I can't take that U damage right now, I have to go get something else before I can go, push it and press aggressive. And it's left up there for quite a couple of seconds, making an interesting dynamic and fight, which you don't really see in TAM whatsoever, because you're just hunting people down all the time. And in TDM, it's about controlling certain runes, and it becomes very stale very quickly. Now, somebody was saying, like, basically Team Showdown is like the first 2 minutes of TDM, but for me, those first 2 minutes are the most enjoyable, because I'm actually talking to my teammates going, all right, what are we going to do off the spawn? Right, okay, we're going to go up to the top of deck and we're going to control the top, and then we're going to try and get the 100 armor room. But once that meta is set, you don't really deviate from that plan. You don't have to do any new tactics, and you stick to the plan throughout the game, becoming very repetitive until the very end usually. So the beginning and end are always very dynamic, but the middle is just basically 10 minutes of filler.
Well, like what I like about those game types that are similar like that, Tam, it's like death has weight. When you die, you're out, and that is a significant um, reduction in your team's ability to continue on, right? So people play differently when you only have one life than when you can just respawn and respawn and respawn.
But it's frustrating to keep constantly respawn and get beaten down by better players all the time, and you're more likely to just give up. You don't see how the game's played because you don't see it from anybody else's perspective but your own as well. So you don't get to learn a map in a particular way. So when you're dead in Team Showdown, you can watch somebody who's much better than you and understand how the game's played and progressively learn as the game's going on, rather than, I've spawned in another side of the room which I don't know. What do I do now?
I mean, it's a very, very valid point you brought up there because, I mean, I'm generally above average player when I join any kind of public free for all server or even like a public team deathmatch server. But back in like the UT3 days, I would join a server and I would just devastate everybody, and then before long, I would notice that people started leaving. And that is a huge concern. I mean, when people start leaving, then that means that maintaining the player numbers in the servers, progressively getting worse. And so I think like Team Showdown is kind of interesting in that sense, where it has that the ability for a player who just got fragged to kind of take like a moment to analyze what's going on, and it gives them like a breather so that they can come back to the game with a clear head.
It really does, and I think that's something that Last Man Standing has as well, and I think that's why people enjoyed it, because they always felt like a fresh restart every round, and it was really nice. But it all became into more of a positional game, and there wasn't anything to go for at a certain point, or in fact most of the point. And in fact, when I suggested to Vlad about different things and mechanics to implement into that Last Man Standing, was a power up to go for. It's something that you battle over, and that's what I like about Team Showdown, is that it has that overcharge mechanic which you don't have to take. You can defend it, or you can take it and risk it all, and it just gets even more dynamic because of that. But you could change it up. You could, I don't know, if we could experiment even further with that. We could add in a flag that you've got to get to point A to point B at some point once it spawns, and so there's a whole new dynamic where you don't necessarily have to frag anything, but if you can run or move quicker than the other person, then it becomes another more interesting dynamic. I think we're always looking at it like, oh, it's got to be like it used to be. I think a little bit too much, and I think pretty much everybody knows how TDM CTF works, and they're bored of it. And so when they come to this game, new players, especially coming from the COD communities or whatever communities they're coming from, they're already familiar with the game type and quickly aren't drawn into it so much because they know how it works, and they're just gonna play it for a couple of rounds and realize that they're getting wrecked by somebody who's vastly superior. But that comes into a whole new issue of matchmaking as well, so that's another topic that we can talk about actually after this one.
But plus, what also, even for newer players that aren't good, right, it's the more people you have against the other person, the better chance you are going to be to kill him. So you can, if you better team strategy and sticking together and like being able to maybe group up and get one straggler that's out, he can kind of go along with the ride, and then he's also kind of contributing. But I don't know,
do you guys think there's room for Assault as maybe like a go-to game type for new players?
Honestly, I don't actually mind what game type is picked up for Emerald Tournament, providing that the whole community can get behind it. Like, I'm totally open for anything. Like, honestly, I don't mind what the game type is. If it's original and a little bit different and works as a spectator, which is one of the most key things to do. Most people will watch a game before playing it these days. That's very key to keep in mind. So it's got to look enjoyable. And I think Team Showdown actually lends itself very well from that. From the map picking stage, it's kind of like, champion select in League of Legends. It's like, what they're going to do this round. Oh my god, he's going for the stupid bio rifle spawn. Why did he do that? It gets very interesting in the storytelling. And also, if you're just a regular streamer, you can then engage with your chat, which no other game mode does. As soon as you start a CTF game, as soon as you start a TDM game, you're in it for the next 10 minutes, essentially. You're totally focused on that game and you don't interact with your chat whatsoever. Are we all dying
Basically,
again?
no. So basically, Team Showdown gives that opportunity for a Twitch streamer to have some things to talk about, and it's not. It has like moments of less activity and moments of more activity. Is basically what you're getting at, right?
But this is why we're doing this Testers Cup. Like, we're going to try and find out what people want, but there's got to be a point where we all have to come together and just go, all right, this isn't my favorite game type, but it has the most potential.
So basically, the chat's talking a lot about the armor value system right now, and I might have something to add about that.
Go for it.
Sure. So basically, my question is, which game type would be that the armors are balanced for? Are they balanced for all of the game types, or are they balanced more for Capture the Flag? Are they balanced more for Team Showdown? Does anybody have any clue like what they are balanced for?
So that's an interesting question. What is it balanced for? As in, it's just not a general one-trick pony kind of.
Right.
So ideally, I'd probably say it's more set for duel. But then again, I have no faults with the armor system. I'm not bothered by it. I don't find it too much of a disadvantage if somebody's got a shield belt. But that's the way I play, how I approach a problem and a situation. I'm very different in my mind and how I think about things. It doesn't bother me when somebody has a different armor value than me whatsoever, providing that I know how to position myself so I can take that armor away from him in some way, shape or form. I look at it as a whole different problem. I see it as a problem, but I try and find problems around it or solutions around it. But I don't know, weapon balance sort of destroys armor anyway in one hit sometimes if you position yourself right. So
yeah, I mean, my major concern with the armor values, also bear in mind that I think about armors mostly from a dual standpoint. So rarely do I think about armors from a team deathmatch or team showdown or capture the flag kind of standpoint. And so when I think about armors, I think about, okay, what is the player going to do after he grabs belt? He's going to beeline for probably the vest armor. And if he doesn't get shot, or if he doesn't lose any of the belt between that time when he grabs, between the time when he grabs belt and grabs the vest, was there any benefit to getting the vest aside from just denying it from your opponent? You know what I mean?
Okay, I see what you mean. So, in a duel, I will bait out a vest if I've got the shield belt. I don't see the point of risking my position to go for a belt. An armor, a chest armor. I would rather use that to my advantage, position myself that if I take damage, I can back off to that 100 armor and restack up and take it away from my opponent or mistime it so it syncs up with the shield belt again. I will just basically draw out the timer on it. But
actually, don't you remember back in ET3? I don't think it was even on purpose. You couldn't grab armor if you were stacked with belt, for example, or it was armor. So you need to actually do damage to yourself in order to get the armor back then.
I believe that was early 2K4, and I believe they fixed that with patch.
It was in UT3. I remember, in the beginning, yeah, you couldn't stack up with armor and stuff like that. So you couldn't even deny it to the other guy. I remember it in a match. In some way it's kind of fair because at least the other guy that just spawned as a chance to grab the armor instead of you having full map lock. But yeah.
Well, for other game types like CTF, I guess what you'd want to be running the flag is to get fully stacked up. So I don't know, the balance I guess would be determined also by what's the distance? How long does it take you to get from flag to flag, and how many respawns and that the other team can get and retranslocate to your position to take more damage? I think the distance travel in the map also plays a important point of how much the armor damage would be need to be fair, and I don't know the correct numbers for that.
All right. So right, let's so we've talked about the game modes, what could be the ideal game mode, etc. But it all comes down to how good the matchmaking is, and do we want matchmaking earlier rather than later? Now, I say it like this because I think earlier is much better because we don't have the numbers as of yet. So in terms of like we can test it internally, kind of figure out if it works or not, and if it's broken, a lot of people aren't going to try it apart from the core community that are already involved with the game. But if we wait until we get a bigger player base before testing out a matchmaking system, which would be perhaps broken or not working properly, I think that would deter players from coming back or trying that matchmaking system, which really helps build communities such as like the CSGO community, for instance. If you took matchmaking away from that game right now, it would start losing its numbers drastically.
I think a matchmaking system would be interesting. I think as long as it doesn't replace any of the current system, any of the current hub system, I'm fine with that because I'm the kind of person that just loves to just go find an empty hub and based on my location, and just play a game with like one of my friends on Steam, for instance. And so if nobody was online and I was bored, then matchmaking would be great for that because then it could throw me into I'm assuming it'd throw me into a lobby, and then the game would start with set number of players. I'm down for that. I think that's cool.
Well, yeah, you're gonna need it at some point when there's a lot of people because you got to match players of equal or close to equal ranks and have them play with each other, so you're not getting complete blowouts. But I mean, well, like I asked the question, how many of you have clicked the Find Quick Deathmatch or Find Quick CTF?
Never.
You guys use that matchmaking?
I don't think I've used it once, but that's the issue. Like I think I did actually try it once at the very start when it was first initialized, and it didn't work, so I haven't tried it since. And that's one of my issues with matchmaking. Like, if somebody tries it and it doesn't work, then are they likely just to go to the server browser every time and then go, oh, I can't find a game, and then just give up after a while? Because often I do that when I look for games now. I look for a duel and I can't find any, so I just go, oh, whatever, I'm not going to play then. But if I was in a queue already, I'd wait happily for 20 minutes probably for that ideal game.
Hopefully not 20 minutes.
The problem is to have proper matchmaking. It's always the same problem. You need to have enough players for that. Otherwise, people maybe go into matchmaking against someone and get raped 20-0, and then, yeah, like you said, it says it doesn't work, so probably they won't try it again. So there's this paradox that we need more players in order to implement matchmaking properly.
There is that paradox, and that's what worries me, and how it's implemented, and when is the right time to put it in. Is it better to do it, like I said earlier, with a low population that will have massive queue times, or do you force players to use the matchmaking as a system to get them used to it? Like, remove the server browser for a while, for like a month or two, and then get people using matchmaking so they can see how it's working, what they can do to fix it, and then turn back the server browser on. And then so when it's ready to launch on a bigger scale, when the player numbers come, once the game is pushed in the marketing department, it will be more likely to succeed.
So does this mean that the matchmaking would be separate from the server browser or the hub system, or would it all be integrated like one and the same thing?
I was just thinking literally turning off the hubs and the server browser and just find a quick match, find your game choice, bam, and you wait for your skill level, and then you find your game. And yes, it's going to be buggy and not working, I would imagine, but I think that's probably the best way to do it. And I think Dirty Bomb did that, and I think it worked out pretty well. But then when they added the server browser back in, people stopped using matchmaking again, because what happened was, as Hypno was saying, we're playing skill levels way too high above the ranks, so they got demotivated and didn't want to play in those games, went to the server browser to find much more easier games. And it's difficult to find that balance to get it working properly.
I think one thing that could be done is to make the matchmaking more of a front and center option. Make it very easy for people to notice as soon as they open up UT. but I don't think you necessarily have to get rid of the hubs or hide them temporarily. I think the hubs should still be available, because then that would just alienate certain players like myself, and like who just want to hop in and choose a specific hub and create a game. And so I don't know, if you could achieve the same result with matchmaking, then sure, I could maybe be down with that. But if it completely alters the method by which you get a game started, then I think that could be bad.
Any thoughts, guys, or shall I move on with the last topic?
Yeah,
Well,
about matchmaking, I just think right now probably it's too early to implement. As I said before, the problem is when is it going to be the right time? I mean, like if people can't also find proper games through hub or server browser, it's also a problem. So I'm not sure if it's good to risk it or not at this point.
Well, I think it's less of a risk at this point because the people that are playing now are sticking around. I mean, they've stuck around through all kinds of weapon changes, all kinds of bugs, all kinds of crashes. They're committed to the cause. I mean, the 100 people in here are very, they stick around for a long time. They put up with a lot of crap, and and they're there to test it. They want to figure out what is the best option. I think a lot of people are on board on that page, and I think if we do it earlier, we can work out the bugs, we can work out the systems, perhaps. I know it doesn't have the necessary player numbers for it to work properly, but it could be beneficial, is what I'm saying, in an early run, because we can work out the kinks, essentially.
Well, it's all about the path of least resistance. Players, you want to get the player in the game playing what they want to play as fast as possible. Now, a lot of you guys, competitive guys, and like the CTF guys, they have their own IRC Pugbot thing, and everyone's in TeamSpeak. So like finding a match, like the matchmaking, like the people who are already in TeamSpeak or on IRC, you're probably going to talk or message your buddy and get a duel going or something faster than a matchmaking thing right now. Like you do your own matchmaking better than waiting for however long to find someone. Or if you want to play with a buddy, like yeah, it's for the matchmaking would be good to find the game that they want to play with an equal skilled player when there is a larger player base and they're new and they don't have the friends in the friends list or people to play with.
What's interesting is back in the day when in 2K4 and stuff like that, when IRC was more predominant, a lot more people would join a certain channel and they would advertise for a 1v1, and that and TDMs, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
At
exactly.
all, like it was
Back
so
then.
easy to get a 1v1 back in the day. It would be like
Back
1v1,
then, UT duel,
mid skill, high, whatever, and you'd have a game instantly.
got server.
Yeah, exactly, got server. But now it's
One-on-one
like
skilled got server.
people don't even want to type 1v1. They just don't, or TDM. They go to the pug areas, and then even then, it is slow, hard work to fill a pug.
Weird.
I mean, if there was we've just become lazy, essentially. Gamers have seen really good systems. Yeah. They like those systems, and we haven't got them implemented in our game, and so we're kind of like, oh, whatever.
Actually, what was it? I saw on Path of Exile, they did these cool like event systems. It'd be neat if like there was like a global, maybe you're just idling in the main menu or something, and it'd pop up like a CTF game. Like, is it not like an event, big event, but sort of an advertised, play this game right now, a couple players left, maybe for like a bonus XP, so you can get like, so people who are trying to find something can like jump in, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think we'll move on.
There's one thing that I mentioned a long time ago. It was possibly integrating IRC support directly into the launcher. IRC is kind of like an aging kind of technology, and so people generally don't know how to use it unless they have the web version of IRC. And so I was thinking, like, do you guys think there's any way that maybe integrating IRC like directly into the launcher, or maybe even directly into the game, do you think that would help maybe generate some activity in terms of like getting games started,
I
or do you think there's
I
no
don't
hope for
know. I already did it for Raxi on his servers. I don't know if you guys
I
remember
do, yeah.
a bunch of his. Yeah, so I don't know how long it was up for. I don't know if it was beneficial or like
You could
I don't
talk to
know.
other servers, right, as well, right?
Yeah, there was cross server
Yeah, I
communication,
remember it.
and it was all hooked up through one channel that you could idle in.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's a good step in the right direction. But I also think there's better systems out there now, like Discord, if you guys have heard of it, which is basically IRC mixed in with a TeamSpeak, and it's amazing. And I'd love to see more people hit onto the Unreal Tournament version of that. That I've got a rough version running up right now, but you can add pug bots, you can add all the stuff that IRC has as well. But with better implementation, easier to use for new people that want to get involved with the community as well. But is it the final solution? I'm not sure.
Oh, so there was one thing that the chat brought up. They were talking about it a few minutes ago. They're talking about an idea that that I recommended on the forum. It may have gotten lost because I didn't create a thread for it specifically. I just kind of posted on another thread. But the idea was a chat box. So right now, like one of the big concerns is spectators cannot speak to players.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not entirely sure why the spectators have been completely cut off from that. And
Yeah.
I've already been a victim of that. I tried to join a server, or I tried to join a game and say I got next, right? Or
Yeah.
or try to answer a question, like maybe somebody's
Yeah.
complaining about something in chat, and I knew the answer to their question, but I couldn't respond to them. And so, what's up?
Honestly, I think the solution to that problem is very simple. You can mute spectators during the match, but when the match ends, spectators should be able to talk with the players. It's like, okay, the match ended, can I play, please? That's it. It's in Quake Live, and it works just well. That's
I've got like a more in-depth idea though.
Or
Like,
just a simple toggle in your UI be like show spectator chat.
yeah, or
And
that.
because you know
Or
some
that.
people there's going to be shit talking and you keep that off by default, but some people want that, so you just tick the box and you're at risk of getting people shit talking to you while you're playing, or you know you have your buddies watching and you can communicate.
I've got a more in-depth idea about that. Basically, it would be a chat box that would overlay on top of your screen, and it would sort of like kind of disappear when there's no chat activity. But basically, if anybody here has played PlanetSide 2, they have a really good chat box implementation. Basically, it has like tabs in the top left. So if you think about that in terms of UT, you could put a tab for all. So if the default would be all, and you would see chat from your teammates. You'd see chat from spectators. If you're playing a team game, I mean, you could just change that accordingly. But basically, the idea is the spectator chat would go into the spec tab, and then the way you would change tabs is when you press T to type, your cursor appears on screen, and you just move your cursor up to the top of the screen, and you click the next tab. And then also, it would have a minimize button on it, which if, let's say, you're playing a duel and you don't want any distractions whatsoever, you could just minimize the chat box, right? I think that'd be a pretty cool solution, and like I mean, something like that already exists in PlanetSide 2, and I think like, I mean, if you just take a look at like the UI system in Unreal Tournament right now, the UI is already pretty sophisticated. So I think if the UI is that sophisticated, it wouldn't be that much of a challenge to create a fully functional chat box.
Well, yeah,
In
at
my
some
opinion.
point that has to happen. Like, yeah, because right now chat's fucked. You're sort of typing into the console, and the input focus gets all wonky. So yeah, I think some scrollable box, or like even when you're typing, it's just not the console. I
Yeah.
think something.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
really
then
annoying
you
at
can.
the intro sequence at the moment, which messes up the type box, drives
Yeah,
me
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
God, that,
You can type.
But
There was some people on the chat talking about something that I think is also very important. I think Epic is aware of this and they're going to implement it. But it's like when you are a spectator, you should be able to join the game. Spectator join.
Oh yeah,
like something that
would be handy.
UT3 probably never had, or I don't know if it was really frustrating. You had to rejoin, and then sometimes you were still in spectator. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that just make people leave the game. I mean, it's really simple, but if it starts to be like 1, 2, 3, 4 times, it's just very tiring, you know.
Yeah.
And
I reckon there should be also a bit unrelated, more kind of related, like what's the winner stays on game mode. Like, you know, you play a duel and you turn on winner stays on, and obviously if you win a game, you stay on, but the guy that lost gets switched out for the spec.
Yeah, that's classic shit you used to do with like a console game, like passing the controller,
exactly,
the winner or the loser passes the controller. Like that stuff's cool. Yeah,
I think that's a nice way to get people into duel as well. That's you know, because they kind of, can I play? And usually the other guy will be like, no, I want to play another one because I want to beat him. So you don't naturally swap. It just takes like 10 games before you're both bored and exhausted, and then nobody wants to play anymore.
didn't someone make that? I swear we played something. Someone had a game type that was like that, where there was some swapping in and out.
King of the Hill, yes.
Fuck, I can't remember what it's called.
King of the Hill?
I don't know.
Maybe somebody made it already, and that's another issue as well. Like, lots of people make interesting content and really great ideas, but it gets buried under a lot of forum and miscommunication, and players not engaging with new, fresh content. I think that's a big issue that this community has, especially.
It's also hard for someone who's building something in their spare time and got to consistently like update stuff. Like the game's like constantly in flux, and each update things might break or whatever. So
that's a good point.
we have seen game types and then just haven't been updated, even myself included, like speed and shit like that. Like it. Yeah.
For those that don't know, Timeh made Speed, and it was amazing, and it got a lot of people playing the game in a different way, and people would keep on playing it for. Like, I remember just joining it at 4 a.m. when nobody else is on and just running around a map. It was brilliant, but of course, as you said,
still around?
No, it's not, because as Timeh said, like it takes a long time to fix the issues from build to build and hack your way around. But wasn't there changes to this build or the engine in particular that makes blueprinting much easier?
I'm not exactly sure the changes between we're 4.8 now. It's 11. I'm not sure if blueprints are any easier. I don't think so. I mean, they probably improve some stuff. But yeah, with speed, like I think one of the updates, like just a whole swath of like just blueprint nodes disappeared or something like that. So yeah, I don't know.
Right. Anyways, I think we should just about round this up. I was going to ask one last question, which was the communication with both the community and Epic. How do you feel that relationship is going right now? I mean, is there enough done, not enough done? Do you think Epic are listening? Do you think that the community doesn't have a voice and that it's all game decisions made by Epic, or is it just complete phony? Or I'm just interested in your opinions, because Cpt Migraine, Timeh, you've contributed a lot to this game, and lots of people have as well, but their ideas necessarily haven't been brought forward. So I just wanted to get some ideas on that front.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Zach, because you were there, worked there for a week. Like they're always constantly reading the forums and things are being talked about from community members and stuff. So to answer your question, yeah, they are reading and watching as much stuff that people are saying. Whether it's responded to, I mean, there's like so much stuff on there. You couldn't expect to possibly respond to everything, but they are watching everything.
Yeah, I definitely struggle myself, like just reading one side of the forums, which is like the Frag Center stuff, and it's getting more and more popular. Lots of people posting some brilliant content, and it's hard to keep up. And people will submit some frags, and I'll miss them sometimes because they'll send them directly to me and not to the forum, which I don't. I just forget about that PM somebody sent me an IRC. Communication comes in from loads of different directions, and ideally these guys, they're game developers as well. They just want to focus on making the best game possible, and sometimes they need to knuckle down and headbutt a computer screen for 10 hours a day, and they don't necessarily want to have to deal with the forum so much. And maybe that's the issue. Maybe there needs to be some form of more communication from somebody else in the community that can help guide them in the right way a little bit more.
But it's also a lot of stuff. You got to quantify things. Like it's like, rockets are OP. The shit's fucking whack. You guys got to nerf it. You guys got to nerf it. But those aren't values. Those are like, how do you even interpret that? And it's like, they never listen to me. The rockets are still fucking OP. Like, but what constitutes that change? What is that the actual problem? Like, is there something else that can change in the game that would actually make that better? There's so many different. You change something, it affects everything else, and there's.
Exactly. I honestly don't find weapon balance that much of an issue in such a small community of this proportion, right? Like, I'm not going to play this game because the rockets are OP or whatever. It's just like, well, that's not really helping anybody, because we're not going to be able to fix it if people disappear, and it's going to constantly change. It's the easiest probably thing to change is the weapon balance, in terms of if there's an actual problem, like some bug that breaks the game, that's much harder to fix and figure out what is going wrong in the game. Whereas, weapon balance, it will continue to change. It's going to evolve. It's not set whatsoever, I don't think, in this version. I think people get a little bit irate for no reason on those topics a little bit too much. But hey, that's my opinion anyway.
But the thing with this engine is, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say my opinion on that is basically, word of mouth is probably the best form of advertising something. And so, like, let's say that you have like a group of friends, and you all go on TeamSpeak, and one person has played UT and everyone else hasn't, right? And if that one person had a bad experience, well, they're just gonna say, "Oh, okay, like this is what's wrong with it, blah blah blah. Don't recommend it." And then maybe 5-10 other people that possibly could have downloaded the game and tried for themselves and made their own opinion on it, have simply decided, "No, I'm not going to do that." Right? And so I think if you do actually cater to the very low percentage of players, and try to get their opinions positive, then that word of mouth advertising is going to be positive, and then that's also going to draw more people in.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a very good point. And I mean, I think overall it's nicer to have a more engaging, positive, small community that does go, okay, well, this is broken at the moment, but it's going to be addressed sometime soon. I can't tell if it's going to be the next build or 3 builds time, but it is going to definitely change. I don't think that is translated very well among the community when a fresh face appears. It's broken now, it's going to be broken forever, is essentially the attitude that most players put across. And it doesn't help the game. It doesn't help build more players. It just makes it more toxic and sort of invert and just nasty in general.
Like this engine, like, you can talk all day and theorycraft in the forums, but like, this engine is so easy to prototype shit with. Like, if you want to change weapon values and numbers and you think something should be like that, like, even if you're new to this stuff, like the engine, all the tools are free. Download it, start playing with numbers, play with it a bit, package your shit up, read a couple things on how to just distribute it. Like, you and your buddies could just make your own gameplay tweaks and try to figure out what is best. And then when you guys settle on something, send it out and then talk to Epic. Because right then that you have something to quantify. Like, I think that's happened a few times. I think Raxi had this movement thing. Like, people were talking about movement was wonky.
Yeah.
And then Raxi actually made the movement thing, and it was a little more tighter and responsive. And then Epic started taking a look at that. But I think that was sort of something different. Steve found a bug that was in the movement code and actually fixed it, and it was more responsive. But it was the actual... I mean, you could talk all day about how movement sucks or it feels like shit, but that doesn't... What is better, right? And when you actually make it and then people can test it, like, there's a lot of talk on the forums, but a lot less actual things you can just download, click, play, and instantly, picture 1,000 words, 60 frames a second. Like, you could talk forum posts all day, but like, you need to experience it. And I encourage people to download the editor, try it, just play with numbers. Like, that's the easiest stuff. I mean, you don't need to make your own game mode or anything, but if you are interested in seeing how, or you have an idea for like things change. One change might change another thing. So just play around with the editor, see how things, just I don't know. I'm rambling.
Yeah, but
Someone
you know,
stop me.
no, it's cool. No, it makes sense. Somebody
I
brought up
completely
an
agree with
interesting
that.
topic that not everyone has a server to do that though, but this is why it's a whole community effort. That there are people that are more than happy to host those mods or those tweaks, and I speak to them very regularly that they are happy to open up their servers and try these new unique changes or mods. And I mean, it depends how proactive you are in the community and if you really care enough to have your game mode or whatever you've made put out there.
Yeah, because I mean, if you spent a couple hours just fighting back and forth on the forums, and in those couple hours you could have actually tested your idea and saw if it was good or bad, like
Not
that.
only that, but like as you said, like I've seen people argue more in IRC than rather play the game for that amount of time. Do you know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah.
they will complain about weapon balance, but they've played an hour of gameplay compared to 10 hours of talking in IRC.
I think the main problem and what worries me more, even though I play UT since '99, and I've played every UT, but the problem is mainly the toxic comments comes from people that are so passionate about their own game, like
Yeah.
it's UT99 or 2K4, they just can't detach to it from it. So I think what we also need is like fresh new feedback without being biased, and we don't have much of this. We only have like a community of 200 or 300 or 1000 players that are just veterans in this game that has been playing for so long, and we need fresh blood. This is what is going to decide if UT is going to be successful or not. It's not going to be us. Of course, we can do the foundation of a good game, polished and stuff like that. But it needs to appeal new players. I've been showcasing UT in very big events in my country, and I'm shocked by how many people doesn't know what UT is. I talk to people that are 15, 16, 18 years old. So we need a good marketing, and we need a game that is fun to play for someone that never played UT before. That's a thing that is very important. And sometimes veterans just forget about this point. And I try
I've got
to...
something I can add to that. Sorry.
Yeah,
Basically, I think that one of the main differences between previous iterations of UT and this one is that previous UTs relied on other companies to do tournaments. Take CPL for instance. And then whenever CPL decided they were going to go with Painkiller, UT sort of fell off the map. And so it's always been up to other companies to host those tournaments. And I think it would be a really good initiative for this UT to have lots of hosted tournaments by Epic Games themselves. And so basically that would draw interest right there, saying we're gonna act like tournaments in the name of the game. We're actually going to provide some tournaments, prizes, stuff like that, and I think that's going to go a long way to generating interest in the game, right there.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, you're gonna need that. But you're gonna need, like we were talking earlier about, a team-based game type. You need to have that before you start bringing people in and advertising. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
duel. I mean, duel is always duel, and duel is going to be duel. And I love watching the duel. I can't play it, but
it's one of those things that I think after the CTF event happened, everybody was expecting more like CTF to happen after that tournament. Like, where's the next CTF event? When's the next one? We're waiting for it. We're eager to play the next one, and it's having is that the right mode for the game? Because not a lot of people in Europe play CTF whatsoever, and you'll split the community even more. And this is another reason to have a new game mode or a reworked game mode that fits the game type. So more fresh faces will have a more even chance of entering into a competitive field at the very start. I think a lot of people get very hyped when a new game is announced because they feel as if they can transition what skills they had from their previous game into a new game and get better at it and competitive at it, and that they have a chance. But if they know that something's a long-standing competitive scene, they tend not to jump on board of it so quickly.
There was one other thing that I wanted to bring up, completely off topic to what we were just talking about. So in one of the past broadcasts, they showed off a extremely prototype version of the new bio rifle. And Zacubus, you know me with my bio rifle. I mean, I hit ridiculous shots. Um, Although in your latest top 5, there was one that topped even mine, where he shot the bio over the wall.
Yeah,
and it
Oh, yeah,
landed.
that was cool.
Rock UT representing Australia there.
I don't know if I could top that one. But I mean, the new bio rifle is really kind of interesting to me. It reminds me a lot of basically a grenade launcher. Like, my first thought is, why not just launch like canisters of bio or something like that instead of just launching blobs of bio? Why not just launch canisters, and then you could have additional mechanics like it would make sense for the canister to bounce off of a wall, and then maybe you could possibly even detonate the canister in midair.
Did you see the new prototype that Sydney's been working on?
Briefly, yeah, I saw it briefly.
Okay, because I thought that was a canister-based primary fire on that one.
I can't remember.
The secondary fire has been turned into a complete bioweb, and the primary fire is more of a traditional grenade launcher with an area denial effect, which is it's gonna be a whole different pace, and I think it's gonna be quite OP at the moment because of the AoE damage of the smoke looks very strong, but maybe it's gonna be tweaked before we even get to try it. So I don't like to judge things before I've tried it.
Oh, that's good. Like, when's the last time you guys spawned and ran directly for the bio rifle?
Exactly.
In the past, like, 16 years since 99 or whatever, like, if I can do the math correctly, like never.
I mean, if you think all the way back to UT 2003, the bio rifle was actually super effective in 2K3, but it was also totally absurd in the sense that it shot faster than a rocket. And so in 2K4, they evened out the speed, the velocity of the bio rifle blob, but then that simultaneously made the gun, very ineffective, and so it wasn't the most sought after gun in 2K4, and in UT3 they just made it like crazy effective, like super damage inflicting.
It's super effective.
Yeah, everybody hated it for that reason. Like, you couldn't avoid the bio, and so like, no matter, it's like you make the gun more powerful, people hate it. You make the gun weaker, people hate it. I think the gun really does need a revise. Like, I think I think this change with the whole making it into like a pseudo grenade launcher, I think that's great. I think if anybody has ever played a game called, and this is very old school, Star Trek Elite Force 2, they had a very interesting grenade launcher. Maybe a bit too functional because it had a ton of functions.
I remember playing that game. It was built on the Quake engine. In fact, I can't remember exactly. I just remember the phases liquefying people essentially. I can't remember the grenade launcher.
It was a fantastic game, but I think they got sued into oblivion because they didn't have the rights to make it.
Wow.
But yeah, like, that game, it had some of the most interesting weapons. It even had a very interesting ammo system, where basically I think it had 3 different ammo types, and then all of the guns shared various ammo types. It's actually way too convoluted. But I really latched onto the grenade launcher. I thought it was fantastic because you could shoot grenades, bounce them off the wall, and then you could detonate them in midair. You could shoot multiple grenades and then detonate like a pile of grenades. You could set traps. Like, if the bio rifle is going to be a trap setting weapon, I think it should borrow some ideas from the grenade launcher from Star Trek Elite Force 2.
I think right now, the changes will be more like that. I mean, not exactly like being able to detonate on target. I think that could be potentially dangerous, but
yeah,
I'm open to ideas. I'm open to experimentation. I don't mind exploring where that goes. But it can make it's like the proxy mines in GoldenEye, right? Everybody used to ban them when I used to play, like, because I just like spray them everywhere and just blow them out to bits and just ruin the game for everyone else. But interesting to try.
That's what made the game fun to me.
Yeah, exactly. That's what made it fun for me as well. But it's interesting. You got to look at it from afar and go, okay, we'll see where this leads, and then make a decision after time. I think that's always the best policy when any game balance change happens like that. I don't think we should get rushed or really get mad about it, because I think it is in a good state, this game. As much as people would disagree with me, it's going in a really good direction, I feel. I think it's evolving. It's becoming something that is going to be really solid in the end. And I think we just need to stick with it and grit our teeth at the points which are ugly, but smile when something good happens about it, you know?
Definitely.
And anyways, guys, I think I'm going to round up the show now because I'm kind of running out of things to say and we've been ranting on way too long. Is there anything that you want to bring up quickly? Anything at all?
Hold on, I think before we leave, I think we should get crazy. And because we're talking about, you know, the community members feel like, you know, they're having their voice said, voice heard. Link fucking the TeamSpeak or channel and chat. Get people on here. Bring people in, maybe one at a time, because it's not going to get crazy. And let people, if you're out of things to talk about, people have questions and want to talk, see, like, yeah, I'm going to link it. Maybe people can jump in.
It's a good idea. In fact, yeah, definitely. I mean,
do you think you'll be doing more of the UT forecasts? Because I think this is a pretty cool thing.
This is healthy.
Honestly,
this is good. Sure. Good for the soul. But yeah, I mean,
I'd love to see more of the UT forecasts.
Let's see if I've not lost my job from Epic first after this broadcast.
Did we lose Zacubus? I think we lost Zacubus.
Oh man, we've lost me.
Hey Zach.
Oh no, they can't hear me, but I think they can hear me.
I'll just pretend he said yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
okay,
I'm gonna lose my job. Right. I will reconnect to this quickly.
Connected.
See if it fixes.
He's going.
Hello.
Switched.
For some funny reason, my transmit key stopped working. I don't know why.
GG.
I was banned from Cafe apparently. He didn't like the sniper rifle changes and is destroying me because of it.
I knew coming in here was a bad idea.
Yeah. By the way, Cafe has a disgusting clip of sniper rifle, which is awesome. But anyways, carry on. What were you saying, Hypno?
Timeh just pasted the TS IP in the chat, so some people might be joining.
Oh right, cool.
I don't know how people didn't join yet actually.
Well, it takes
People are all shy.
Copy and paste. But yeah, people are shy. I mean, I think
shy.
back in the early days, it was more intriguing to explore the internet. Like, oh, it's IRC. What's this about? What's TeamSpeak about? And now it's kind of like, we know what it is, and I don't want to get involved kind of attitude about it. But I think everybody needs to really come along and sort of build this community together and just be a little bit more positive, because I think things are going to change for the better in the long term. We don't know what the new game modes are going to be. We don't know what those things are going to change. And Blue Cloud has now invaded the TeamSpeak. So, hi, Blue Cloud.
What up?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hey guys.
Hello.
I think this channel is locked or something, but I'm server admin, so I got in.
Good. Nice.
He's actually
good move.
crashed the party.
User was moved to your channel.
Everybody's coming in.
Everybody's coming in now. Hey, Warden, what's up?
Everybody gets a voice
User
today.
was moved to your channel.
All right. So, anyways,
guys.
guys, thanks for tuning into the stream. Thanks for
User
everybody
was
joining
moved
in.
to your channel.
The chat was brilliant. Keep up the chatting. Keep the talking going. Let's keep the game positive, and let's make the best game ever.
Do a barrel roll! Do a barrel roll!
Ninja.
Are you still streaming?
I don't know. I haven't understood yet. Ah, you're still okay.
Do it live! Do it live! Do it live!
Winner will fight to the death. Get crowned Emperor of the Nazi planet.
Shock therapy!
Pro tip: we can still hear you.
A liter of cola? A liter of cola?